I blinked. Where was I now? All I saw was a big white void. Nobody else was here. I looked down at myself. The claw marks had healed over, though they did leave some scars. Guess I wasn't gonna be able to model after all. It's too bad. The thought of all that attention appealed to me, even if it scared Shy silly. Then I noticed, almost passively, that I wasn't quite all there anymore. I was still standing or floating or whatever just fine, but one of my wings and part of my left-hand leg were dissolving into little pieces of light before my eyes and floating away, becoming one with the white void. It didn't hurt. I couldn't even feel it happening. I didn't see any guts or anything poking out from behind the flakes of light. Maybe I never even had insides. Doesn't exactly surprise me. Why was I scared? I was dying, was I? Or something like it. Guess he had to be alive to die, so I wasn't exactly losing anything. But why? Oh, right, I mumbled to the void. I was made from the old man's magic, and he's about as far from harmony as you can get. Makes sense using an element myself would erase me, too. At least I went out with a bang this time. At least our friends know I exist now. I laughed, watching part of my shoulder start to flake away like the rest. Psh, good riddance to this fake existence. Good riddance to a no-pony who was never any pony. Good riddance to something that was never anything! I laid myself down on whatever counted as the floor here, curling up so I could see the mark on my flank. A hoof holding a pearl, huh? I smiled despite myself. Hey, old man, remember what you told me back when you made me? Time to be cruel? Joke's on you. The last thing I ever did was learn to be kind. My eyes slipped closed. And now it's time to not be anything. Sorry, dear. You're too young to die. You've only just earned your Kini mark. There was a hoof on my shoulder. My eyes snapped open. The white light flew back into me, making me whole in seconds. I twisted my head around to see Fluttershy's sweet, understanding face beaming down at me. Not the perfect Princess Gaia, not the horrifying Nightmare Whisper. Just Fluttershy, all pink and yellow and bright-eyed. There were blue markings on her forehead and nose. You haven't even had your Kitsunera yet. Do you think you'll pick out a new name then? Lots of ponies do that after getting their Kini mark. Should be easier for you, since you don't have any paperwork to fill out. Maybe something like Helping Hoof? Still laying down, I glared at her. The day I call myself something as saccharine as Helping Hoof is the day I die. Which was supposed to be right now, actually. I don't have a purpose. I'm just a loose thread from a scheme that fell apart. I don't have any past or future. I'm nothing but a reflection of you in a fucking funhouse mirror. I'll always be exactly the same until you grow old and we die together. I turned back around and covered my face with my wing. Just go away and let me die already. I'm the one who turned you into a monster. I've earned oblivion. At least let me have some dignity this time. I felt her crouch down beside me. No, you're my responsibility. You just wanted to teach me. It's my fault I couldn't take lessons like a mare and acted like a child. But none of my friends are hurt anymore, and I'm okay now. I forgive you. You can't forgive something that doesn't exist. Things that don't exist don't earn their Kini marks. I shifted my wing just enough to look at my flank again. You'd think I'd get a big mallet or a bunch of creepy spiders or something. I don't really feel all that different. Isn't there supposed to be some big change inside, like an inner awakening or whatever? There is no grand realization of self. Self simply is. Or at least, that's what Twilight would say. She giggled lightly, then switched to her sterner mom voice. Now stop all this nonsense about not existing. Nothing couldn't have used an element of harmony to help some pony. A pony without a spirit wouldn't fight so hard to save some pony else. A pony without a purpose doesn't earn her Kini mark. And her voice softened, so painfully like herself. And I have to say, for someone who's not even 2 months old, earning your Kini mark is something you really ought to be proud of. She nuzzled me, folding her wings over me in a gentle hug. I know I'm proud of you. She said she was proud of me. She hugged me. This was the first time any pony in my life had hugged me. Why did it feel so nice? Why didn't I want it to stop? Why didn't I want her to leave me? With a pathetic whimper, I turned to bury my face in her chest, shoulders shaking. Her fur felt damp. She pulled her hose around me, and for a long while, we just stayed there. Thank you, Mom, I whispered. It felt so freeing. Reluctantly, I pulled away, wiping away the last of my tears. So, what now? I think there's one last part of me that needs help finding her way back, but that's something only our friends can do. Come on, Cruel. Let's go home. Yeah, alright. Let's go. The light faded from the hero's eyes, revealing the crumbled throne room. Twilight shook her head. Everything looked mostly the same, right down to the ruined tea set and scattered rubble. Miraculously, the potted plant in the corner remained unscathed. She could still smell the lingering scent of blood and decay. It made her feel sick to her stomach. Rarity got to her hooves and found that the element of generosity had done wonders once again. Her broken bones were mended perfectly, her mana reserves restored, and even the stab wound on her thigh had vanished. Pinkie, Trixie, and Applejack weren't so lucky. Rarity walked over to Applejack and touched her horn to her head. "Oh, element of generosity, I beg that you heal my dear friend." Nothing. Drat. "Don't worry, Sugar Cube, I can manage," Applejack said, sitting up with a wince. "I'll be fine, don't worry yourself none." "You know, that gets easier every time we do it," Pinkie Diane quipped, springing up before remembering she was badly injured and flopping to the floor. Rainbow Dash twisted around to try and see her wings. "Hey, do we have bad fling tattoos now?" Pinkie tilted her head. "Nope." "Dang," Rainbow Dash grumbled. Then she remembered what exactly the tattoos were for. "Fluttershy!" She looked around the room wildly before spotting a pink and yellow lump on the center of the floor. She was across the room in seconds. Trixie had already been next to the wilted Pegasus, at a loss for how to react. "Fluttershy!" Rarity, Pinkie, Twilight, and Applejack chorused, fighting exhaustion and agony as they scrambled to their friend's side. Rainbow Dash couldn't take her eyes off her. The look on her face was more pained than the ponies with actual broken limbs. "But the elements are supposed to make everything all right." Twilight kept her mouth shut. Trixie stepped aside to let the others see. Rarity and Pinkie crashed to her side immediately, wanting desperately to comfort her, but unwilling to risk their touch doing any more damage. Applejack just stood by silently. Before them lay Fluttershy, normal-sized, normal-colored, just a little Pegasus pony. And still, she quivered with every pained breath. Her hooves and wings were pierced by a set of rough iron chains that ended in hooks, digging into her flesh. Dried blood matted the fur around them. Another chain was hooked into a manacle around her neck, lined with tiny spikes, just barely loose enough to let her breathe. There was a cord right below it holding a key, perfectly within her reach, just the right size to fit into the manacle. The chains led to a glassy red orb about the size of her head, clutched tightly in her hooves like a lifeline. The shadowy figure within was gone now, replaced by less distinct shadows of ponies wailing, sobbing, screaming. With every pulse of the orb, the chains darkened, and Fluttershy shook harder. Lying a few feet away was a beautiful wood-carved alicorn horn that ended in a stump of blood. It looked older than old, but the power it radiated called to Rarity, Trixie, and Twilight like a siren's song. The Earth ponies and Pegasi heard nothing. "Come to me, accept my power. You could be so great. You could have everything you've ever wanted." Twilight closed her eyes, exhaled through her teeth, and telekinetically tossed the horn through a broken window. The call fell silent. "When did this happen?" Rainbow Dash demanded, looking at her tortured friend in horror. Twilight thought back to the purified night or moon, the element's light washing away the wicked mirror of darkness, and revealing a filly desperate for attention. "I reckon this here's what Fluttershy was doing this whole time," Applejack murmured. "The black magic nonsense just made it all fancy-like till the elements took away the window dressing." No one questioned her. Rainbow Dash reached for the key. Fluttershy opened her eyes and tried to bite her hoof off. "Hey, Fluttershy, what?" Rainbow Dash gasped and yanked her hoof back, looking at Fluttershy in disbelief. "Fluttershy, it's time to let go," Twilight said, her tone falling between firm and imploring. No, we can't! If we do, then every pony in Equestria will start hurting again! I can't let go!" Fluttershy sobbed, every moment bringing a fresh wave of anguish from the dark orb. The others finally realized just how tear-soaked Fluttershy's face was, like she'd been crying without end for a lifetime. Rarity scoffed. "Fluttershy, if you think we're just going to leave you here all alone to suffer, then you are sadly mistaken." I'm a bad pony, right? I'm an evil dictator who tried to brainwash every pony, right? So I deserve to be alone and suffer. So just leave me alone. I don't deserve to be anyone's friend after what I did to you. At least this way I'm doing good. Rainbow spoke in the same flat, unamused tone she'd used on Pinkamena. "Yeah, right, not buying it. Fluttershy, stop being an idiot and put down the torture orb." "I know, I told you before, I shall not tolerate you saying that of yourself," Rarity snarled. "You are an intelligent, rational, and responsible mare. You are most certainly not an idiot. Stop using it as an excuse. Don't you know you're worth more than that? If I let go, all those fools are going to start having bad feelings again. As long as I'm feeling them all instead, the balance of those who watch demand will be satisfied. And just one pony will be sad and miserable instead of everyone. It's a good thing." Then she turned to look into the reflective surface of the orb, and her shaking subsided. In a calm, cool voice that wasn't quite hers, she murmured, "Fluttershy, you need to let go. You don't need to hurt yourself anymore." The others wondered for a moment if Fluttershy had gone crazy, but her tone, her posture, her expression, it was like an entirely different pony was speaking. Twilight didn't think this was like the Smarty Pants incident, where she wound up talking to her reflection in a puddle. This was like two ponies on two sides of a mirror, and she realized the transparent not Fluttershy who'd helped them use the elements wasn't there. What had the figure in the orb said? That using the elements would kill her? Had it been wrong? But I can't let go, Fluttershy insisted, her voice her own again. If I let go, everyone else will start hurting again. I won't hurt so many ponies just to stop myself hurting. Rainbow growled. What, so you'll just sit there and be miserable forever? As long as everyone else can be happy and healthy forever, I don't care what happens to me. She curled around the orb tighter. We care! Pinkie Diane snapped. Fluttershy, you... She visibly struggled to find the words. Fluttershy, you're hurting us by doing this! Fluttershy sighed. It came out shaky. That's why I didn't want you to know. I was an alicorn or a nightmare. Either way, no one questions the burdens you carry. For the first time in her life, Twilight Sparkle wondered about the mantle her master and mentor carried, and the weight that came with it. Rarity exhaled harshly through her nose, then turned on her hooves and trotted to the entrance. Rarity? Twilight asked. This is Fluttershy's choice. It's her life to give. Now that I am certain she isn't brainwashed or possessed, I cannot in good conscience force her to stop. I won't help her, but I won't argue with her. She turned her head to stop anyone seeing the moisture gathered in her eyes. I won't force her to change her mind, Trixie agreed softly. She turned to join Rarity, facial expression unsure. Desperate for a distraction, Rarity busied herself with Trixie's wounds. It's a logical system, right, Twilight? Fluttershy whispered, dragging their attention back to her and her unending shudders of agony. The needs of the many outweighs the needs of the few. A strange spike of adrenaline shot through Twilight at the thought, and she took a few steps back. She struggled to find anything to convince Fluttershy that what she was doing wasn't a need. It wasn't, right? As much as she hated to admit it, there wasn't much she could say to argue against it. How do you convince a pony who loves the world enough to destroy themselves for it to let go? To reopen Pandora's box and hurt the world all over again? And worst of all, a part of Twilight was in perfect agreement that yes, this was the most logical outcome. Rainbow looked at her friends in disgust. Well, I've already made my choice. I said I'd save you from yourself, Fluttershy, and that's what I'm gonna do. Applejack took a step in front of her. And how are you gonna do that, Sugar? How are you gonna keep her from pulling this trick again? Gonna hog-tie her and lock her in her room somewhere? If that's what it takes! So you're gonna do something to her that she's against you doing, just cause it's for her own good? Because she's clearly not thinking straight, and obviously had the more rational perspective? So it's okay if you take her choice away from her because you know better? Yeah, of course. Realization crawled across Rainbow Dash's face. But that's different. She seemed to wilt, wings slumping to the ground. Pinkie Pie watched her friends in the usual silence before finally sighing. Her hair went limp, though she didn't lose any of her color this time. If anything, she almost looked brighter, and the look on her face was oddly serene. She knelt before her friend. Fluttershy, you and I want the same thing. For ponies to be happy. And I know that a good prank and a good game isn't nearly as fun when you see it from behind the scenes, and it's never nice to reveal how a magic trick works, but I wouldn't be a good friend if I let you do this alone. Fluttershy realized what she was saying. No, Pinkie! Not gonna lie, Fluttershy, I love everything you've done here. It's just like my world, but you worked really hard to fix all the things that made it empty inside. And I'd be betraying that world, and my elements, if I let that laughter die out by letting all the bad things back into the world. So in the name of the element of laughter, please. She reached a hoof out. Let me share this burden with you. The others realized what she was doing too late to stop her. She touched the sphere. In seconds, a set of chains snaked out from the orb and shot through her hooves, piercing through to the other side. She let out a cry of pain, a wave of tears springing to her eyes. Another chain shackled the collar around her neck, complete with a key perfectly within Hoof's reach. No! Fluttershy gasped out. By some miracle, she still had tears to shed. I won't let you suffer alone, Fluttershy. Auntie Pinkie Pie will be there for you. The others watched in horror. Applejack clung to truth, the one thing she had in the sea of suffering and dead ends. Are you really gonna tell her she can't do this, Shy? Fluttershy's tremors lessened. Their shared pain was halved. Rainbow Dash made her grab for the ring around Pinkie's neck. Pinkie batted her hoof away weakly. Don't you dare, Dashy, Pinkie Diane grunted. I swear, if you don't stop, I'll break your wings off and make cupcakes out of them. Her entire body shuddered and burned under the agony of half the world, tears streaming unendingly from her eyes. And yet, she still managed to laugh. The shock of Pinkie Pie, of all ponies, threatening such specific violence on her was enough to get Rainbow Dash to back off. Instead, she grit her teeth and looked to the others. If any of you so much as think of following Pinkie's example, I'll break all 4 of your legs and drag you back to Ponyville myself. Pinkie Pie, through the haze of pain ripping through her mind, thought, Fluttershy's been enduring this twice as much this whole time? Applejack shook her head. Fluttershy, Pinkie, it's like Twilight said. You ain't Alicorns. You ain't made to handle this sort of thing. Heck, even the princesses shouldn't have to handle it. You girls have gotta have the biggest hearts in the quest to take this on, but you shouldn't have to. That's exactly why we have to, Fluttershy insisted. But Shy, you're just holding on to all those bad feelings. That ain't right. Pain's meant to be worked through, Sugar Cube. More than that, it's meant to be accepted, worked through or overcome, and let go. Not held on until it makes you a miserable wreck. You ain't solving anything, Shy. You're just hiding it away. But I can't force this on every pony, Fluttershy pleaded. The shadows in the orb twisted madly. Twilight thought long and hard, trying to find something, anything, to get through to Fluttershy, and hoping desperately that once she let go, Pinkie Pie would follow suit. How could you convince some pony to do something they believed to be so unforgivably horrible? It didn't help that the more Twilight thought about it, the more she wondered if Fluttershy wasn't right. Then her eyes fell on Fluttershy's cue mark. Pink butterflies. Her eyes widened in realization. Fluttershy, do you remember what your cue mark means? Twilight asked softly, calm and relaxed as though she was talking to a spooked animal. Fluttershy stayed silent. It's a tree of butterflies, and you know how they grow, right? They start out as squirmy little caterpillars that can't do much more than eat. Then they spin a cocoon and let their bodies dissolve, and a few weeks later they become a butterfly. She knelt beside her friend. Then, and only then, can they learn to fly. It's a lot of work to build their cocoon, and a lot of pain to remake their body like that. But if they don't, they never earn their wings. They never get to fly. And wouldn't it be mean to stop the caterpillar from making its cocoon and becoming a butterfly? Fluttershy turned her head to meet Twilight's gaze, even the small movement making her gasp in pain. Of course it would. It'd be terrible to stop anything from flying if it could. Pinkie Pie thought of white Pegasus wings. Twilight tilted her head slightly. Well, that's what you're doing. Red-rimmed eyes widened. No, I haven't. I would never do something so awful. But you are Fluttershy, Twilight insisted. Keeping every pony a foal forever is like keeping a caterpillar from becoming a butterfly. It's like Applejack said, if you don't let them endure and work through those bad feelings you're heaping on yourself, and learn to deal with them and become stronger from it, they'll never be all they can be. They'll be like caterpillars who never got to fly. Pinkie Diane shook her head through the torment. Twilight, some of those caterpillars, they just want to be caterpillars, not butterflies. They won't ever find happiness as butterflies, because they've lost their wings. Twilight looked at Pinkie Diane and had to blink back tears. Their wings can be reattached. All it takes is another butterfly who cares enough to do it. I've done it myself. She glanced at the pair of unicorns by the entrance. Fluttershy looked at her own reflection in the orb. Rarity, still listening despite herself, frowned, thinking of the little pink caterpillar whose wings she couldn't mend. And so have you, Pinkie Pie! Rainbow Dash yelled, trying and failing to glare at the miserable pink pony letting herself be torn to pieces. You and Fluttershy! You saved me! And let me tell you something, Pinkie. The old you who ignored every motion she didn't like, she would have thrown a party or freaked out while I turned into a nightmare. The Pinkie Pie who could feel everything is the one that saved me. All you're doing is being a new Pinkamena for everyone to dump their crap on. She looked at Fluttershy and willed herself not to cry. And Fluttershy, remember what you told me about pulling out thorns instead of letting them stay and infecting you or whatever? Well, how are you supposed to pull out thorns if you're just making them invisible? Pain is last way of telling us there's something wrong so we can fix it, Applejack sighed. I won't pretend there ain't some truth in what you girls are saying, but there's a whole lot more in what Twilight and Rainbow just said. Let me put it this way. If every apple tree stayed as a cute little sapling, they'd never be able to grow up and make apples. They'd stay small and cute. They'd never run the risk of toppling over and hurting some pony, but they'd never bear fruit either. I spent a whole day running around Ponyville after that visit with the princesses, reattaching butterfly wings and pulling thorns, but I had to get help pulling my own to know how to do it. Fluttershy, Pinkie Pie, it's time you pulled a few thorns of your own so every pony else can get to work on theirs. Despite herself, Pinkie laughed a little. Gee, AJ, when did you get so good at this philosophy stuff? You girls rubbed off on me, just a bit, she said wryly. Fluttershy looked down. I just wanted a world where violence and death weren't the rule, and happiness and life were part of nature like they should be. A world where life didn't have to steal from others to grow. if a world of dreams couldn't work, and a world of fools couldn't work, then are living things just meant to kill each other? Are they just meant to be miserable and sad? Fluttershy begged her friends, the princesses, Discord, the stone beneath her hooves, someone, anyone, for an answer. The best things in life are the ones you have to work for, Sugar Cube. That's what makes them so special. And just because there's sad stuff in the world, that don't mean that's all there is. Shy, please. Don't we have a Cutenera plan? Fluttershy looked at her reflection. Or maybe it was the reflection looking at her. Cutenera? Pinkie Pie asked. Change the world's misery or not, she was still a party lover. Yes, hers. But her curls. She just earned her Cutie mark. It's only fair, right? The others were still just a bit thrown. Fluttershy's other self, the remnant of Discord's attempt to rewrite her mind, had only been dumped on them maybe 20 minutes ago. Now it was talking about Cuteneras. Sure, they'd all seen the Cutie mark amongst the havoc, but they really needed time to sit down and get a full explanation after this. Pinkie Pie? Fluttershy whispered. I think maybe we should let go now. This has gone on long enough. Okay, if that's what you really want. Fluttershy reached the key around her neck, and after a beat, Pinkie Pie did the same. The moment they unlocked the shackles around their necks, the hooks digging into their hooves shattered into light, leaving the chains to slither back into the orb. Their hooves were left with little star-shaped scars. As one, they let go. A sound worse than any the ponies had heard in their entire lives vibrated through the room. A cry without passion, a whisper without intent, a scream without volume, and none of them at all. The red sphere glowed brighter for a second, cracks spreading over the surface, until it shattered into shards that disappeared before they could hit the floor. The shadows of millions of ponies flooded their container, miming screaming, crying, moaning, flying through the walls like ghosts. The entire room darkened with their presence, and a burning cold wind cut through the ponies. And then, as quickly as it had started, it was over. Light and warmth returned to the hall. Every trace of the orb's torture had vanished from the pair like it had never happened, save the starbursts on their hooves. Pinkie's injuries from the fight remained, though. My what? Rarity gasped, having ran to rejoin the others at the first sight of the shadows. What in Celestia's name was that? Trixie exclaimed, not far behind her. Her eyes were white as saucers. Applejack shrugged. We just released every ounce of prejudice, depression, and malice that Fluttershy has been holding on to back into the world, and now they're free to terrorize ponykind once more. No biggie. Rainbow Dash took a step back, unsure. We did do the right thing here, right? Twilight wasn't looking too sure herself. That's what we were doing our best to tell Fluttershy it was. Every pony's gonna have to decide that for themselves, Sugar Cube, Applejack said, staring at the walls where the ghosts had flown off. Some are gonna say we should've just let Fluttershy keep them locked up where they couldn't hurt no pony. Others are gonna say we've gotta deal with their own problems for real, like we did. And I think some will say that ain't a decision us little ponies should have to make in the first place. Pie didn't say which side she was on. She was still staring at the space where the sphere used to be. All the same, she'll be leaving out the release of intolerance and sorrow back into Quester when she writes her memoirs, Trixie sniffed. I do not think I shall be telling Sweetie Belle about this part of the adventure until I am on my lavish rose-petal deathbed. If it really is my choice, I'll accept releasing them as the right thing to do. It feels freeing, somehow, Fluttershy said with a surprisingly firm, calm voice. She brushed away the last tears from her eyes. But I can't change how I felt, or how every pony else felt when I held them inside me. I think they'll always be with me. Trust me, Sugar Cube, I know what that's like. But if there's a pony who can make good of it, it's you. Thank you, Applejack. But I hurt you all so much. If you can't forgive me, I won't blame. Pinkie Pie practically teleported aside and gripped her in a tight hug, followed swiftly by the rest of her friends. Fluttershy! Pinkie Pie wailed. Oh, Sha, it's so great to have you back. Don't you ever do something so reckless again, darling. Fluttershy, you... It's so great to have you back. In case I've ever forgotten to say so, Twilight said softly. You're one of my best friends, Fluttershy, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Then her tone deepened to a sort of awkward formality. And Fluttercurl, right? If you're listening, thank you so much for helping us bring Fluttershy back. For a brief instant, she saw a very un-Fluttershy-like smile flash across the mare's face. Trixie watched the group hug thoughtfully. They looked like pieces of a puzzle, the way they fit together so well. Trixie had always hated puzzles. Why shouldn't every piece be beautiful and whole on its own? But seeing those ponies, the light and love in their embrace like nothing she could remember. Trixie trotted over almost woodenly and, legs shaking, laid one hoof on a yellow wing. You are a wonderful pony. Twilight's approving smile made the awkward praise worth it. Princess Gaia! Princess Gaia, save me! Screamed Mara's voice. The double doors swung open as Angel, once again naked, was bowled over inside. A mare, or something that used to be a mare, raced inside. Her body was a mess of burned flesh and blackened bone, tattered remnants of green mane hanging limply from her skull. She flung herself into a bow before her princess. Princess Gaia, it's already taken everybody else! Please, protect me! Save me! She sobbed. There was a distant echo resonating from the hall. It sounded like two ponies drowning. Rodeo! Starlet, I still love... Silence. A chill rattled their bones. Nearly everyone backed away in horror, save for Applejack, who knew just enough of what was happening to keep a straight face. It wasn't easy. The potted plant fell over and wilted into a twisted pony-shaped mass of bones and burnt flesh before a set of black claws dragged it into the ground, somehow more vicious than with the others. The body didn't even get a chance to scream. It's not fair, sobbed the tattered mare. The Chimera made us whole again, then the rainbow took it away. Then her kindness they let us forget, then the rainbow takes her away too. It's not fair, not fair, not fair! Bramble-like claws wrapped around her barrel and began to pull her beneath the earth, dragging her back to her ruined village. She kept mumbling. Please, we didn't know. We thought it was a curse. We thought it was evil. We thought it was the plague our grandparents told us about. We didn't mean to forget what the marks meant. We didn't know. I didn't want to hurt her. It wasn't my fault. We didn't have a choice. We didn't have a choice. I never had a choice! Fluttershy blinked away tears. I was so sorry, Three Leaf. I was so sorry. Applejack really wished she had thought to bring a lasso, though she wasn't sure it would have done any good. The others were too paralyzed to move. Only the mare's skull and front hooves were visible now. The black claws kept pulling her down, back to Sunnytown where she belonged. Ruby, I didn't think you. I thought Graham said, Princess Gaia! Fluttershy, or Fluttercruel, or both of them, grabbed Three Leaf's hoof and pulled, taken to the air. It popped off its socket and crumbled to ash in their hooves. Three Leaf slipped beneath the floor. No, Fluttershy whispered. She felt around the stone floor for any sign of Three Leaf. There was none. Angel hopped over and gently patted her back leg. I'm sorry, Your Kindnesty. They still bury their heads in the sand and scream that they're victims of fate. They're beyond saving. We all are. The ponies looked up to see another undead pony, a foal, this one without the scorch marks marring her body. The black claws crept around her legs, but their pull was slower, gentler than before. Applejack snapped. Now didn't I tell you to stop with that hogwash? Ruby's Applebloom's friend. That means you are too. And no friend of my little sister's gonna keep beating herself up like this. I let them kill Ruby. I deserve this just as much as they do, Mita yelled. Ruby wants you to be free, and so does Applebloom. Now stop being so damn selfish! Mita startled. The black claws hesitated for a heartbeat. Her eyes darted to the mark on Applejack's flank, then those of the others. Cutie marks. That's what those are called, right? And they're supposed to tell you what makes you, you? What do you think my cutie mark would have been? Applejack smiled a little sadly. Maybe a shield? You know, like a pony who protects? They didn't do a good job protecting Ruby. There ain't a pony in the world who didn't go against their cutie mark one time or another. They tell us who we are, not what we're meant to do. Fluttershy shouted, As your princess, I order you not to give up! I order you to stop this! I'm sorry, Your Kindnesty. Mita bowed her head. The claws crept up around her ears. That's one command I just can't follow through. I can't move on until those fools realize their own sins. Besides, someone has to make sure they don't hurt anybody else, right? There was a tiny flash of light on her flanks. Mita just barely managed to lay her wide eyes on it before she was swallowed by the earth. Hey, Fluttershy, Applejack said, the first to realize what had just happened. I think maybe, just maybe, some good did come out of all this. She gave Fluttershy a small smile. Before the others could ask questions, another voice echoed through the doorway. While this experience I would not have chose, for it to happen again I would not oppose. Zecora! All the ponies chorused together. All except for Trixie, who was realizing with some dread that the rhyming wasn't part of the brainwashing. I would have entered before, but I believed that filly needed help more. She bowed her head to Fluttershy. Greetings, dear Princess Gaia. I believe you have little to fear for becoming a pariah. Fluttershy startled. How did you know I was? What kind of foot zebra would I be to my queen, if her thoughts I could not glean? Wait, you are free of the brainwashing, right? Rainbow Dash gave Zecora an aerial look over. Her eyes were normal, at the very least. If that is what you wish to call it, I shall not object. But yes, my mind is my own last I checked. Then what's with all the princess stuff? No matter its form, it is still love, and Fluttershy has the heart of a dove. What Princess Gaia did was admittedly foolish, but I shall not call it ghoulish. That being said, it is time we fled. Fluttershy nodded. Now my magic's gone, the Everkind and everything else I use magic to change is going back to normal. Pinkie Dan tilted her head. Wait, if Princess Gaia's magic is going away now, why are we still covered in ouchies? Every pony took a step back from Twilight, knowing full well what Pinkie had just unleashed upon them all. The purple unicorn immediately leapt onto a fallen stone brick in lieu of a soapbox. Most of what Fluttershy used in that fight was what's called active magic, where the items summoned or transformed by the spell are unconsciously sustained by the caster's magic until they dispel or alter it, either by choice or due to loss of consciousness or ability. But just because the spells were tethered by magic, that doesn't mean their effects weren't real. A broken bone isn't suddenly going to become unbroken just because the magic that slammed them against the wall went away. Active magic is most useful in a fight since it comes at a much lower mana cost than physically creating or altering matter using permanent magic would, but using it for absolutely everything is risky at best and actually dangerous at worst. Active magic should never be used to create or transfigure materials for a building, for example, because if that spell gets disrupted or the caster dies, the materials will vanish as soon as the mana runs out. You need to use permanent magic, even with its higher mana cost, to make materials with an actual physical presence. I suspect Fluttershy's experience with magic and impatience to change things as fast as she could led to her using active magic elements entirely. If she'd sought to spread herself out slowly, she might have been able to change things carefully enough that her influence would become the new reality, instead of just glossing over it with what amounts to a very thorough illusion. She certainly had enough power and will to do so, if that orb wasn't any indication. But as the elements undid so much of it, girls? Where are you going? Girls!